What's going on YouTube? My name is Zach with Android Digest, and today I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Google Pixel 6a and also the Google Pixel 6, and I'm going to let you know the differences between them and let you know my thoughts on which one you should consider buying. So with all that being said, let's get right into it. So the Google Pixel 6a, it just recently released at a price of $450, and you may be wondering if you should buy this or if you should buy the Google Pixel 6 that released for about $600, especially since we've seen a lot of sales on the Google Pixel 6. In fact, I just picked one up from eBay in mint condition for like $420, so if you could get this in mint condition for about the same price, which one should you buy and why? Well, to make that decision, we really need to look at the pros and cons of both devices, and we can start off with the design. So you are going to notice a few extra premium elements on the Google Pixel 6. You are going to notice the back is made of glass, and this glass right here on the Google Pixel 6a isn't glass at all because it's actually made of a ceramic coating that is put on top of plastic. But both of them feel the same, both of them feel like glass, and you're going to get Gorilla Glass Victus on the front of the Google Pixel 6, while the Google Pixel 6a is going to have a little bit more of a little more fragile glass. It's going to be Gorilla Glass 3. But one of the biggest differences in the design, honestly, is just going to be the weight and the size, because the Google Pixel 6a is going to be a little bit lighter, not only with the plastic back, but also the fact that it's a 6.1-inch screen. The Google Pixel 6, of course, has a 6.4-inch screen, so there is going to be a little bit of a size difference between them, and the camera bump on the Pixel 6a is going to be a little bit smaller as well. Now, if we look at the displays, this is really going to be one of the more controversial things that we're going to talk about, because a lot of people have been complaining on Twitter about this new Google Pixel 6a because it only has a 60 Hz refresh rate. If I put them side by side and I scroll very quickly, there is a little more smoothness with the Google Pixel 6, but honestly, it's not something that's a huge differentiator. In fact, when I was using this Pixel 6a, I used it for about 2 weeks, and honestly, it felt so buttery smooth that I wasn't even thinking anything about the refresh rate, especially after I adjusted over a couple days. And if you're someone out there who's never had a 90 Hz refresh rate, you're definitely not going to notice that with the Google Pixel 6a, so I wouldn't worry too much about it either. But it is a nice upgrade. It's nice to have that 90 Hz refresh rate. Basically, the screen is going to refresh a little faster, so that's going to make everything just feel a little more smooth as you're using the phone. But both screens, when you're watching videos, they're going to look very, very similar. The quality is going to be similar. So honestly, one of the biggest differentiators for you might just be the size, because the Google Pixel 6a, it is a little more compact. It's a little easier to use with one hand. But if you're someone who wants a little more size and you want that extra refresh rate, it might be worth spending a little more on the Google Pixel 6. Now, if we move on to performance, both of these devices have the Google Tensor processor, so you will get similar performance out of both devices. Now, you will get a little extra RAM on the Google Pixel 6. You will get 8 GB of RAM, but honestly, the performance will be very, very similar between these two. The one thing I will say is that I've heard some minor reports of overheating, and that's honestly just because the Google Tensor processor does run a little bit warmer, and if you do put that processor in a smaller body like the 6a, it is going to get a little bit warmer to the touch if you're doing things like heavy gaming, or if you're doing video editing or stuff like that. Then yes, I might lean towards the Google Pixel 6 just because I think it could handle the heat a little better. But your average person, again, who doesn't do all that, like me personally, I like to check my email. You could record 4K on this Google Pixel 6a with no issues, even for like an hour or two, as long as you're not doing it outside on a hot day or something like that. But on the other end, if you are someone who pushes your phone to the limit with things like video editing or very heavy gaming, you may prefer the Pixel 6, again, just because I do believe it'll handle the heat a little bit better. But either way, I would not recommend using your phone outside when it's really hot for long periods of time. I've seen all types of phones have issues with that. So honestly, I think any talk of overheating is probably a little bit overblown, but it does again depend on where you live. It does depend on your situation as far as AC and how your house is. But realistically, I think your average person, if you're just scrolling the news, you're going through email, the Pixel 6a is going to be more than good enough for that. Even if you do push it for some stuff, the Pixel 6a will hold up pretty well. It'll just get a little bit hotter on more intense stuff. Now, if we do look at things like extra features, that's where the Google Pixel 6 will pull ahead. It does have wireless charging. It does have reverse wireless charging. That means that you could charge your Google Pixel Buds, for example, from the phone itself and just put it on the back, and you could actually reverse wireless charge. So in that way, that's a really cool feature. On the Google Pixel 6a, you're not going to get those little extra bonuses. Now, the speakers are pretty loud on both phones. Of course, the Google Pixel 6 is a little bit louder with the speakers, but they're honestly pretty close. The battery life, I think, is going to be very, very similar. Now, the battery is a little bit smaller on the Google Pixel 6. It's about 200 milliamps smaller, but realistically, the battery life is going to be about the same because this only has a 60 hertz screen, and the screen is a little bit smaller, which would use less battery. So I know up until this point, you've seen a lot of things. Of course, the Google Pixel is a little bit better with design. It's got that glass back. It's a little bit better with the display because of a 90 hertz refresh rate. And it's even a little bit better with performance, not because of the extra chip. Again, they both have the same processor and the same chip, so it's not really a difference between an extra chip or extra power in it. It's actually just 2 extra gigabytes of RAM, and also it's a little bit bigger, so it deals with heat a little better. But realistically, we're seeing these minor wins for the Google Pixel 6, and that's really the theme of these two phones. The Google Pixel 6 is ever so slightly better in different categories, but it also costs about $150 more with the retail price. Now, one thing we have to talk about is the fingerprint sensor. Now, there was a lot of controversy with the Google Pixel 6 and the fingerprint sensor, and it was a little bit slow and a little bit unreliable. Now, I'm happy to report that a lot of those issues have been fixed over time, and a lot of updates have came out and fixed a lot of the issues with the fingerprint sensor. But it's still not perfect. It's still a little bit slower than some other phones. It's still an optical sensor, and the sensor itself is improved even with Android 13 beta, but it's not 100% reliable. And the Google Pixel 6a, it does have a different sensor, but it does still have a lot of the same issues. In my testing, now that I have all of the updates with the Pixel 6, now that I have Android 13 beta on it, I'm actually having about the same experience between both phones. So realistically, the fingerprint sensors are both going to be a little slower than some other devices, but they are overall decently reliable nowadays after updates. Now, one difference in these two phones is going to be in the camera sensors. You see, the Google Pixel 6, it does have a new sensor this year. Google has been using the same sensors on like the Pixel 2 and 3 and 4. And this sensor right here in the Google Pixel 6a, it's the same sensor as all of those. It's the same sensor from the Google Pixel 5, and it continued on to this phone. So good news, it has been refined. The Google Pixel 6a does have a terrific camera. However, the Google Pixel 6 has a little bit of a better camera. With it being a 50 megapixel camera, it is going to be able to blow up images a little more. You're going to get a little more detail. And even though it's not a significant difference, it is going to be noticeable for some things, especially for video quality. The video quality will be a little bit better on the Google Pixel 6 compared to the Google Pixel 6a. Again, it's not a super significant thing. The pictures are phenomenal on the Google Pixel 6a, especially portrait shots, shots of your family. You're going to get amazing shots, and people are going to ask you, how did you get these shots and what phone took those? And you're going to say that it came from a $450 phone, and people are going to be amazed. So again, they're not that different, but you will get a little more detail from the Pixel 6, and you will get a little bit better video quality. So if you were to ask me, which phone should you buy and which phone is worth the money? Honestly, I would say both phones are worth the money, and it just depends on who you are as far as which one you should buy. The Google Pixel 6a is for that person who isn't a tech enthusiast. They don't really care about 90 hertz or 120 hertz. They don't really care about having the latest and greatest of everything. They just want to save some money and get a good, reliable phone that has a good camera, good performance, good battery life, and all the basics. And this phone is terrific at all of those. The screen is good, the performance is absolutely great. It's going to fly through everything you do on it. Realistically, this is a terrific phone, and it's even a little more compact, which is a big bonus for some people. Now, the Google Pixel 6, I would actually argue it's a slightly better value than the Google Pixel 6a, and it's not because the 6a is a bad value, but simply put, the Google Pixel 6 is a terrific value. It was already a terrific value months and months ago, and you get a lot of stuff, and you only have to pay an extra $150 to get it. If you care about your photos just being perfect, remember this will get terrific photos, but if you just want a little more detail, if you want your video quality to be a little bit better, if you care about having a glass back, or if you care about that 90 hertz refresh rate, those are very, very minor things that if you don't care about them, you might as well save $150, right? But if you do care about them, you should definitely get the Google Pixel 6 because it is going to be a little bit of a better value. You'll get a lot of stuff for an extra $150. Now the other thing is the Google Pixel 6 has been out for a little bit, so it's a little more likely to go on sale. So if you see the price gap and it's under $100, well, the Google Pixel 6 will definitely be a better value at that point. However, I would expect the Google Pixel 6a to go on sale as well. I saw a lot of sales on this even at launch. They were giving out some Google Pixel Buds with it that were $100 value. They were giving out $50 gift cards with it. And if you get any of those incentives, that means you're getting this phone for even less than $450. And in that sense, man, this is a terrific deal as well. Hopefully this video has helped you to make a purchasing decision. If it has, feel free to use the links in the description. I'm going to keep them updated there so you could check out the latest sales. Also, you could leave a comment if you have any questions at all. And one last thing, if you really like my videos, click the like button, click the sub button, and if you get any extra time, check out some extra videos as well. I hope you have a great day and enjoy your week.